Hi, my name's Jack Soul, and this is the first video of a 3-part video series. I'm really excited about this video series, and it's all about pedal boards. This first video is going to be a full walkthrough, a rundown of my studio pedal board and all its current settings. Really excited for that. My second video is going to be, in this video series, is going to be a walkthrough and rundown of the current settings of my gigging pedal board. And the third video is going to be all about making pedal boards. We're going to talk about power supplies, cables, the actual pedal board, and we're going to talk about even planning and pedal layout and how important all these things are. I'm going to make sure I tell you all the mistakes I've made over the years so that you can avoid them. I'm super excited for this 3-part series. As of the airing of this first video, all of them will be up on my YouTube channel, so you can binge them all at the same time. I can't wait, but let's get started with this first video. Alright, so let's talk about the signal chain and get right into it. As per usual on this channel, it's my Fender Telecaster right into my pedal board, then going into my Fender Supersonic amp, right into the interface. So here is the 2024 Studio pedal board. I'm really excited about this pedal board in general. There's so many creative aspects that have been getting me excited to sit down with it. So we're just going to start walking through the pedals, and as we hit different pedals, we'll use different other pedals with it. I'm not going to be too... it's not going to be just one usually. I'm going to show you how I make actual sounds with the full pedal board, but I'll make sure to show you all my settings that I've been using lately. Starting with the Kernom Ridge. This has been a mainstay overdrive for a little while now. And of course, it's got a lot of sounds in here, but this is going to be the main overdrive sound. Throughout the video. And then this first preset is actually just one that I've been really enjoying. It's got a little bit of a spittiness to it. I was really pleasantly surprised when I was playing with the Kernom that it had that. It's kind of one of my favorite aspects actually of fuzz, is that starved out kind of sound. And the Kernom doesn't really reach into that fuzz territory, but it does a good job of that sound. So we'll hear that a little bit here and there. But excitingly, let's move on. The next pedal in the chain is the Boss SY200. And this is one of my favorite pedals on the pedal board because it really helps me expand how I think about playing certain guitar parts. So for instance, I really like trying to emulate old synth sounds, like something you would hear on a vinyl record. And so this is with the D-Tune number 6 and the Generationloss. And then putting a little reverb on there. And then actually like putting dotted eighth on this kind of sound too. And I actually find I have made a video actually on guitar synth pedals, and one of my favorite aspects of the Boss SY200 is the tracking. And I actually have it after my overdrive. And the tracking is amazing. And the one thing I especially pay attention to when recording with this pedal is the effects level. It's got to stay pretty tame in order to work well with my interface. The soft pad is one of my favorites as well. Gonna leave it on that one as we move along to the Hologram Chroma console. So this pedal I'll be using one of two ways. Sometimes I like to just use the effects as is. Or I'll be jumping into the presets. I've got a few that I am always coming back to. And there are amazing sounds individually. I really do like the texture. And I like having some cassette and broken textures like the Generationloss earlier in my chain and later in my chain. So it works out really well to be able to use that in different contexts. As well as some really neat delay sounds. But this pedal is so much fun to play with. You can get lost in it so easily. But moving up to the next pedal in my chain, which is the Thermae. Take off the reverb. And just as a little plug, I have another video explaining more about the innards of the pedal board, but the power supply on here is the Chox DC7. I love that power supply. And on the back, I use a Temple Audio input-output jack that I mounted to my pedal board. So in the video, in a couple of videos I talk about how I installed that. But that's why even on the pedal train, it allows me to kind of go straight into the Kernom, and then have this interesting order of effects rather than having to go into the first one. But anyway, up to the Thermae. So the Thermae has some unique interval things going on, but I don't specifically use it for that. I use it for a modulated delay. So I always have the modulate dip switch on the back flipped so that these two knobs here are used for modulation. And this is how I have it set right now. So I have the low pass filter set really low, and the regeneration knob is kind of a quarter way up there, and that gives almost to the point of oscillation. But I love that really, of course, it has the low pass filter on it. And it's almost got a reverb-like quality to it. Can turn the depth up. And I like partnering this up with some reverb, but I also like, and we'll play some different pedals here, and I haven't explained the Microcosm yet, but this delay specifically works really well for my Mosaic D preset on my Microcosm. I find the Mosaic D setting on the Microcosm sometimes needs a little bit more stimulation to really make a full sound. So this setting on the Thermae does a great job. And of course, putting it with a long delay. And taking up the regeneration knob, we'll get some oscillation. And the low pass knob and the regeneration knob are really in cahoots on this pedal. I like putting it right on the edge. You can even use something like the SY200. Such a great pedal. And moving into the Microcosm, I'll start kind of at the beginning here. One of my favorite settings is the warp, and it's a delay in the multi-delay segment. And it reminds me actually of the Mosaic D, but it's kind of a more active, it's a little easier to play live too. And it has that, it's predictable enough that if I'm playing the same line on it, I can kind of get to know how it reacts, which I think is a part of the Microcosm that a lot of people have a hard time getting a hold of, especially when thinking about playing live with it, is how do I predict what's about to happen? And that's one of my favorite settings for that. The second one is a glide setting, and I also really like it for being predictable. So it's got a really neat sound to it, and it's predictable. I really like that glide setting. This is my haze setting that I use for just kind of creating ambient pads. The reverb is doing a lot of heavy lifting from the hologram on this one, but it's also the algorithm that kind of sustains it out. So I just use the tap to hold, and then I can add other stuff like the Generationloss. If I'm not using any other effects, I can just turn on a reverb, and it's not affected by the hologram, so it doesn't get too muddy. Again, I could play for hours just loving that sound, and having the Chroma console again to add in that. I'll explain what I mean. So if I end that loop, I can add the cassette in the actual loop. Sorry, I gotta turn that on. And since it's before the Microcosm, now it's added into the loop, so I can play unaffected having that lo-fi sound too, though. one contact, so it's cool to have one at the beginning and the end of your chain. And moving on to the LVX, which again has just been such a huge pedal to wrap my mind around, but has been a really fun experience. And of course the Mercury X is in the same boat, but I'll just show you the 3 settings that are my favorite. We'll start with 1. So this is a kind of lower degraded quarter note delay. And of course partnering that up with a larger delay. Huge sound. And my second one in the LVX is a higher fidelity dotted eighth. So this is the one that I was playing around with the Thermae. So it's got a really dark trail. And this is a lighter one. I really like dotted eighth delay. I think it's an easy delay to have a lot of fun with, and when I'm thinking about delay, I either want it to get out of the way of my playing, kind of like this one does. Just kind of echoes in the background, or I want it to be like in my way, like I'm playing to it. And this third patch actually doesn't sound like much of a delay, but it's one of my favorite algorithms on the LVX. I feel like it works so seamlessly for what it does, and it's called sub-octa swell, and I really enjoy putting this on tracks. It sounds really killer in a mix, and partnering it up with even a spring reverb here. Here's my chorus reverb. I really love that sound, and it sounds, again, it just fits in a mix really seamlessly. Coming up next is the Mercury X, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because you've been hearing it the entire demo here, but here's the 3 settings I use. This is my chorus reverb setting. That's a sound that I can't have a pedal board without it. I love the chorus reverb sound, and it just works well that the Mercury X can do the chorus reverb sound, so I don't have to have a specific pedal to just have chorus. But if I did want chorus with a reverb, the Microcosm and the Chroma console do really great chorus sounds respectively. Next reverb is my spring. Just kind of got that slap back spring sound to it. I love that old school sound. Going back to my bridge pickup. Got a great country sound. And then this is my big reverb, and usually what I'll do is if I don't want as big a reverb, I'll just turn it on and dial back the decay. But here it is. Really like that one. So the Blooper does what the Blooper does. Actually, let's put my haze setting on. So now I've kind of got the haze setting looped in. I like to use this to kind of take my hands off my guitar when I'm using the Generationloss and the Lossy. And of course the so here's a setting that I already had loaded, and of course the modifiers are really fun to play with. Low pass filter, high pass filter. Just come up with some really unique sounds using the modifiers. So much fun. And then of course we have the Lossy and the Generationloss as the final two pedals. And the Generationloss I find is at its best with a reverb in front of it. It sounds really amazing. And that way the failure knob just takes everything out when it does dip out. And just switching over to a preset here. This is from one of my favorite settings from the classic Generationloss pedal with Chasebliss and Cooper Effects collaboration, because this has classic mode. So here is a mode I have pulled up from the classic sound. It definitely has a different sound of the classic mode, and I like them both a lot, so I'm really glad that they were able to come out with a second generation of this pedal that has both of them. And I feel like I'm maxed out on my board right now for the Generationloss, the vibrato kind of lo-fi sound, so I'm glad that they fit both into one so that I didn't have to choose. And last but not least, which is one of my latest acquired pedals, is the Lossy. So this is a little bit more intense effect, so we can really hear it. And this pedal has reverb on it. And I like this pedal because it's just a really unique filter sound, and it kind of sounds like it's underwater as well. One of my more recent experiences having one of those moments where I'm like, hey, that really sounds like I'm talking on the phone with someone, but they have bad connection, and it can kind of get that sound. Or yeah, so it's just a really neat pedal to play around with. And it has this really, really awesome filter gate, in it. And I'm going to put on a reverb and engage the gate. And I think the way the gate falls apart is an amazing sound. I just love that. Even putting on something like the mosaic setting from my user preset. Just hearing it fight through that is just a really cool sound, because all of a sudden it appears and it's got this nice full sound. And this, of course, is just an overview of what I have going on here. It's pretty much just the settings that I currently have pulled up and I'm currently using, but all of these pedals deserve a full in-depth demo and look into them. So stay tuned on my channel for more updates on how I'm using these pedals and further demos on them. And I already have some demos up of the pedals that I have here. And just closing this video off, I am so beyond thankful for you stopping by here, and go ahead and check out the other 2 videos in this series, and I can't wait just to see where this goes, where this channel goes on YouTube. So thanks again for stopping by, and we'll see you in the next one.